Coming up on this Monday edition of Daybreak, North Korea threatens to forcibly respond to South Korean civic group's plan to fly anti-Pyongyang leaflets across the border later this week. A group of former Korean officials will meet Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe in Tokyo on this Monday. First, Tunisia's president confirms reports that there was a third gunman involved in the Tunis museum attack that killed 23 people last week. He says the attacker won't get far. Daybreak begins now. Hello and thanks for joining us. To our viewers around the world, it's 6 a.m. on Monday, March 23rd here in Seoul. I'm Mark Broome and you're tuned in to Daybreak. Our top story this morning, the South Korean military has vowed to counter any provocations after North Korea threatened to shoot down anti-Pyongyang leaflets that are set to be released by South Korean civic activists towards the end of this week. Our Kim Hyun-bin starts us off.
North Korea again warned the South Korean civic group that if it goes ahead with the plan to send anti-Pyongyang leaflets across the border, it will shoot the balloons down with all its firepower. The threat made Sunday comes after a leading activist group said it would distribute the materials criticizing the communist regime around March 26. The date marks the 5th anniversary of North Korea's torpedoing of the South Korean warship Cheonan, which killed 46 South Korean sailors. The activist group, which includes many North Korean defectors, said earlier this month that it would release around 500,000 leaflets and DVDs of the U.S. film The Interview, a satirical comedy that depicts the fictional assassination of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. North Korea's state-run Korean Central News Agency warned that its frontline troops would blow all of the balloons up, adding that any countermeasures will draw double and triple the retaliatory strikes. It also called on all South Korean residents in the region to evacuate. In response to the threats, South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff said that it will respond promptly to any provocations aimed at the civilian activist group. It reiterated that the group is acting on its own, and the South Korean government has no right to forbid the act, which could be seen as a restriction on freedom of speech. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
Now, a group of well-respected former Korean officials are scheduled to hold talks on this Monday with Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe in Tokyo as they seek to boost the two countries' frosty ties. The 6 Korean representatives, including former Prime Minister Lee Hong-gu, first held talks on Sunday with a group of senior former Japanese officials, including a former Japanese Prime Minister Yasuo Fukuda. The two sides hope the meeting becomes a channel for a free flow of communication to hopefully improve their very frayed relations. The elders from the two countries are also set to meet again during the first half of this year, but this time it will be in Seoul. Their discussions are expected to be collected for guidance to their respective governments. Now, Japan and China had different perspectives on their recent trilateral meeting with Korea, the first of its kind, in fact, in 3 years. China's Beijing Times reported on Sunday that the meeting that was held on Saturday in Seoul had brought trilateral relations back on track. However, Japan's Asahi Shimbun reported on the same day that the meeting showed that it is difficult to repair relations between Korea and Japan. It also said China made things difficult because it was too aggressive in bringing historical matters to the table. The Korean media characterized the meeting as a step forward in trilateral relations. In a statement at the close of the meeting, the ministers agreed to strengthen cooperation by facing historical matters and vowed to hold a trilateral summit at the earliest convenient time for the three countries. The US-led World Bank says it welcomes the establishment of a China-led Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank and has promised to fully cooperate with the new financial agency. World Bank Managing Director Mulyani Indrawati told China's Xinhua News Agency that new initiatives to mobilize funding for Infrastructure are always a good thing. She dismissed worries that the AIIB will compete against existing regional development banks, saying there is more than enough demand for infrastructure to go around. Xinhua reports that over 30 countries now have applied to join the AIIB, which is expected to start its operations later this year. A private think tank in Seoul has lowered its 2015 growth outlook for the Korean economy by 0.3 percentage points to 3.4%. The Korea Economic Research Institute also revised down its outlook for the global economy to 3.5%. That's down from 3.8% in its previous estimate. The report attributed the downward revision for Korea to rising uncertainty about Korea's exports to China and also China's slowing economic growth. The institute also said many self-employed people in Korea are feeling the heat at the moment, and this is pulling down household income. In addition, the institute reported that wealthy Koreans are spending more of their money outside of Korea and advised the government to do more to encourage them to spend more at home. Now, like most countries around the world, the main reason young people in Korea decide to go to university is to hopefully find a better job at the end of it. But recently, with the economy on the slide, college graduates are often having a tougher time than high school graduates finding the right job for them. Our Son Jung-in has more.
Korea is suffering with the worst youth unemployment rate it has seen in 15 years. And the situation doesn't get any better for those with a higher education. As a matter of fact, it's now more difficult for those armed with a college degree to enter the workforce.
I sent my resume to over 70 different companies, but I failed to get a job. Only 8 of them called me in for an interview.
Last year, the unemployment rate for college graduates outstripped that of high school graduates. According to the LG Economic Research Institute, the jobless rate of those with high school diplomas fell from 9.1% in 2005 to 8.9% last year. However, that of college graduates surged from 6.2% to 9.6% over the same period. And among the college graduates who are lucky enough to get a job, nearly 1/3 of them received a lower average wage than high school graduates.
With an overflow of college graduates in the workforce, more are opting to comprise by taking jobs that don't require a university degree. This trend is steadily degrading the quality of the labor market in Korea.
It may seem like the situation for high school graduates has improved compared to college graduates. Still, the positions they end up getting are mostly low-skilled jobs in the service industry. So whichever way you look at it, Korea's young people are facing a job crunch regardless of their education level. Son Jung-in, Arirang News.
Now, the Korean government is investing hundreds of millions of dollars into Korea's bio-health industry, starting with biopharmaceuticals. So hopefully it can become one of the country's next growth engines. Now, this industry, which mainly deals with stem cell medicine, is still fairly new all around the world. So what exactly are Korea's plans? Our Won Ji-hyun tells us more.
340 billion won. That's more than $300 million that the Korean government plans to spend this year to expand the country's biopharmaceutical industry. This week, the government announced a joint project to promote the fast-growing biohealth industry. Stressing that Korea is already a global leader in terms of stem cell research and commercialization, officials said stem cell and genetic drugs will become Korea's next flagship exports. Starting this year, the project will provide funds to bio-startups. Its goal is to create more than 25 biopharmaceutical companies by 2017.
We will provide everything from funding to manpower to support the country's biopharmaceutical sector. We have strategically identified the industrial and market demands to help accelerate clinical trials and the commercialization of stem cell medicine.
With a global biohealth industry estimated around $1.4 trillion last year, the Korean government hopes to gain an edge in the biosector while it's still at an early stage of development worldwide. It also expects the market to grow almost twice as large in the next decade. That's even bigger than Korea's top export industries like semiconductors and automobiles. Won Ji-hyun, Arirang News.
Now, March 22nd, Sunday, was World Water Day. It's still being marked in many countries around the world, of course. And it's a day that aims to raise awareness, especially among those who do not try to do enough to decrease their everyday usage of this very precious resource. Now, there's a special reason why we should be conserving water here in Korea as well, as the country could be facing a water shortage in just a few decades' time. Our Shin Se-min reports.
An average Korean uses about 282 liters of water a day, the highest amount in the world, according to the Environment Ministry. The country's old water pipes leak over 650 million tons of water a year, a loss of $500 million. Korea has an annual monsoon season, but the rainwater utilization rate is only 26%. Given Korea's water consumption, the OECD predicted in a 2012 report that the country will be facing a water shortage in less than half a century. But there are water conservation efforts in the country. For example, manufacturing companies have started using reclaimed water. Every day, over 200,000 tons of sewage enters this water purification facility for reprocessing. There, the wastewater is turned into clean water through a treatment process. Korean steelmaker POSCO uses the water to flush out impurities in the steelmaking process.
We used to limit industrial water use during the dry season, but now we're recycling reclaimed water, so we can provide factories with clean water.
Currently, only 10% of the 7.2 billion tons of wastewater produced in Korea a year is recycled. The government is looking to open more sewage recycling plants in the future to encourage water reclamation. Experts say, however, that the pace of climate change is making it even more necessary to raise awareness about water conservation and encourage people to do what they can do to save a little water every day. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
Now, residents on a remote Korean island now have access to super-fast mobile internet thanks to Korea's second-largest telecom company, KT. The move is part of the company's efforts to try and improve life for people living in the country's more isolated areas. Our Lee Ji-young tells us more.
Ha-young-suk's smartwatch helps healthcare workers check up on her in real time.
I'm very thankful. I can use this smartwatch to contact people if I happen to be sick. It's like a friend.
That connectivity is important because she lives on the northwestern island of Baekneungdo, 4 hours away from the mainland by ferry. The island has just 5,400 residents, but it's the site of a major initiative by KT, Korea's second-largest telecom company. The company installed a mobile internet system that's 10 times faster than the island's existing service.
We plan to continually invest in communications networks to some 500 islands, providing high-speed internet.
The project aims to improve quality of life for isolated island residents by offering state-of-the-art technology in security, education, and healthcare. Students can now video conference with teachers in Seoul. And a total of 26 walkie-talkies have been installed in every shelter on the island for emergencies, like North Korean attacks or natural disasters. KT has also installed smart monitoring systems at piers, so residents can keep an eye on their boats in real time, even when they're away. The telecom company has the same vision for all of Korea's islands and plans to install the speedier network infrastructure on nearly 40% of them this year. Lee Ji-young, Arirang News.
Now, for this week's Industry Insight, we take a look at Korea's financial sector, which has been lagging far behind many of the country's other sectors, in actual fact. And the government wants financial firms to start thinking outside of the box and stop relying so much on the tried and tested ways of making easy profits. Here's our Hwang Ji-ae.
Korea's financial industry remains relatively underdeveloped compared to the overall competitiveness of its economy. It's been more than a decade since Korea first expressed desire to develop its financial sector, but surprisingly, it's still at about the same level as Uganda and even lower than Colombia and Ghana. So what's been pulling back progress? When Korea's new chief financial regulator took office last week, he sharply criticized the industry, saying it's only interested in generating easy profits by raking in the interest it earns from lending to investors. He said the banking sector is ignoring its duty to invent new markets and products. Korea's record low key interest rate also indicates that relying on time-honored sources of income is no longer going to cut it. Korea is considered a financial no-go zone for many foreign banks, with big names like HSBC closing its retail business unit here and Goldman Sachs closing its asset management unit a couple of years ago. A former central bank executive who was also in charge of the Financial Stability Department says the withdrawals are clear examples of why the Korean banking sector is struggling.
They leave because of the regulation, ring-fencing behavior. Korea-specific regulation, which does not exist at their home country.
While pundits call for measures to tackle such issues, they add that more attention should be focused on developing the country's capital market. That by, for example, allowing more authority for brokerage firms in terms of fees, interest rates, and dividends.
Korea's financial industry has been riding on the back of the banking sector for so long. To ensure we take the next step forward, the government should create an environment where the capital market and the banking sector can coexist.
Analysts also say that the chopping and changing of economic policies under different administrations is why Korea's financial sector has lost its way over the past 10 years. So it's crucial the entire system starts pursuing new and creative plans to take it to the next level. 황지혜, 아리랑 뉴스.
Time now for a look through the global headlines we're following on this Monday morning from Seoul, Korea. For that, we turn to Eunice Kim, standing by for us at the news center. As always, good morning, Eunice.
Hello to you, Mark. We begin with some saddening news out of Singapore this morning. The country's beloved founding father has passed away at the age of 91. Lee Kuan Yew had been hospitalized since early last month for a severe case of pneumonia. The office of Lee's son, Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong, with deep sorrow, announced the elder Lee's passing at Singapore General Hospital at 3:18 a.m. local time. Lee is credited with transforming the small British colony into the wealthy global hub that it is today. Lee Kuan Yew had served as the city-state's prime minister for 31 years and continued to serve in government until 2011. Yemen appears to be inching closer to an all-out civil war as Houthi rebels take over the strategic city of Taiz in the country's south. In a one-hour speech aired on TV, the country's Shiite rebel leader Abdel Malek al-Houthi promised to send his militia to the south where UN-backed President Abed Rabbo Mansour Hadi had taken refuge. He called Hadi a puppet to regional and international powers, adding that the Houthi southward mobilization was meant to pursue Sunni militants responsible for the recent suicide attacks on supporters in the capital of Sana'a. The speech came after Houthi militia had overtaken Yemen's third largest city of Taiz, reportedly without great resistance, though residents took to the streets to protest the militants. On Friday, suicide attacks on two mosques in Sana'a had killed at least 126 people and wounded scores of others. The mosques were were known to have been used by supporters of the Houthi group, which has secured control over most of northern Yemen, including the capital. The UN Security Council, meanwhile, has convened an emergency meeting to discuss the deteriorating situation in Yemen after its president appealed for UN intervention. The U.S. military has also pulled out its remaining forces out of Yemen, citing the security situation. And finally, the head of America's Central Intelligence Agency has issued a warning against Iran amid ongoing negotiations over downsizing its nuclear program. CIA Director John Brennan, in an interview with U.S. program Fox News Sunday, said Iran would build a nuclear bomb at their own peril should the nuclear talks break down. He expressed confidence in the intelligence capabilities of his agency, saying that it had a good understanding of what the Iranian nuclear program entails. He added that the U.S. had a number of options available to it to prevent Iran from getting a bomb.
And a good Monday morning to you all as we kick things off in the KBO, where the spring exhibition games in the league ended on Sunday, with the 10 teams now getting ready for the new season of baseball. And with the season kicking off on Saturday, the Nexen Heroes, even without Kang Jung-ho, finished the spring exhibition games in first place, marking it the first time in the team's history. And with the NC Dinos, the Tucson Bears, and the LG Twins finishing in second, third, and fourth respectively, the defending champions, the Samsung Lions, find themselves in 8th place, just ahead of the expansion teams Suwon KT Wiz and the Hanwha Eagles. Now the big question is, will the spring training standings be similar to the regular season standings? Now, LA Dodgers lefty Yu Hyun-jin's spring certainly started off well with a couple of nice starts against the San Diego Padres and the Texas Rangers, but things have turned for the worst as Yu Hyun-jin is expected to miss some time due to an injury. Now, according to LA Dodgers manager Don Mattingly, Yu Hyun-jin will miss his next spring start due to another shoulder inflammation, and at the worst, start the season on the disabled list. Now, last year, Yu Hyun-jin spent some time on the DL because of the same injury, as the Dodgers hope this latest setback isn't as serious. Now, after the Changwon LG Lakers even the series at 1 game apiece this past Friday, they look to make it 2 straight at home in Changwon. But the Ulsan Mobis Phoebus with other plans in this game as they took a slim 19-17 lead in the first quarter before going to halftime with a nice 42-32 lead. And despite the LG Lakers trying to rally in the second half of the game, Mobis Ricardo Ratliff with another monster game here, putting up 25 points, 17 rebounds as Mobis hangs on to win Game 3, 86-79, and are now 1 win away from another championship series. Meanwhile, over to the first round of the Women's V-League playoffs, where the IBK Altos found themselves 1 win away from yet another trip to the championship series as they took on the Hyundai Hill State on Sunday. Now, overall, a monster game from Hyundai Hill State's Polina Ramanova as she puts up a game-high 43 points on the day, but IBK doing a better job spreading the offense around as Destiny Hooker, Park Jung-ha, and Kim Hee-jin all put up double figures in the game. And at the end of the day, IBK dominates Hyundai Hill State, taking the first 2 sets before finishing it off in 4 sets as they advance to the championship series against Korea Expressway. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Good morning. The levels of fine dust were on the unhealthy side throughout the weekend, but thankfully it has returned to the normal range overnight. But also the temperatures have plunged this morning and the winds are adding a chill to the air, so it feels like -3 here in the capital, and other parts are also having a cool and breezy morning, so dress warmly for your morning commute. Chilly but sunny skies to start our Monday across the entire region, and the skies will return remain clear all day long, but the temperatures will not respond today, with highs rising below the averages. So let's take a closer look at the readings for today. While the morning low here in Seoul kicks off at -1, and the daytime high will only rise to 10, and Daegu and Gwangju will peak at 13 and 11, and Busan will top out at 14 this afternoon. And as for the other regions, Jeju Island and Daejeon should see a high of 10 and 11, and Dokdo will top out at 4. Now, readings will not go back to the norms till the midweek, so till then, dress accordingly. Well, that's all for Korea, and here's international weather for viewers around the world.
Well, that's going to do it for now. Korea Today is coming up at the top of the hour. Have a wonderful day and the start of the week as well. And stay tuned to Arirang. Goodbye.